How's the world doing? Alex? Alex is on as well. She'll unveil herself shortly.
We want to keep things exciting.
Yes. Don't show all the content at once. All right. I'll hand it to Jessica.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica Alter. I'm one of the Tech for Campaigns co-founders and executive director. We're going to talk tonight about a couple of different things, starting as always with the State of the Union for Tech for Campaigns, and then some campaign highlights and postmortem plans that a lot of volunteers have been asking about. And then a volunteer / project spotlight with Orchid, who's been an amazing volunteer working on a project in New Mexico. And then we'll open it up for some Q&A. So as always, we like to keep this as a discussion. If you have questions, you can post them during. We'll do our best to answer on the fly, but we'll definitely go back and try to get to everything we can get to. So first and foremost, where are we today? This is just a quick snapshot. We have over 9,500 volunteers in the Tech for Campaigns network. A large portion of them have been reached out to. In 2018 alone, we'll have worked with 115 campaigns. With 2017, the number will be closer to 135. And in 2018 alone, 200 or more projects. And by the end of this election cycle, it'll be 250 projects that we've done since the beginning. And that is a really big deal. There's really no other organization. I think we need to put control back here.
Yeah.
There's really no other organization that is offering operational help to that many campaigns. A lot of organizations offer money, and maybe to that many, probably not to that many, but offering like real strategic and digital help, there's very little. There's no organization that we know of with that kind of scale that quickly. So here, can you remove that?
Yeah.
Here's a quick map of all the states that we have campaigns in. Oops.
Uh-oh, there you go.
Someone has taken over control. That we have campaigns in. The difference here between the orange and the blue is that the orange mean we have a federal or statewide candidate there, and the blue means that we're focused on the state legislatures. Now, you'll notice that there's one more blue in Maine, right?
Yeah.
And so you'll notice that there's a lot of blue. We're focused on state legislatures for a very important reason. One reason is that even though everybody likes to talk about retaking the House this year, if you don't win back the state legislatures, and this is just a fact, and if you don't start winning them back this year, you'll have no hope of winning back the House for a decade. So let me repeat that. If you don't start winning back the state legislatures this year and start caring about them, in 2020, you will be SOL. Because the only way to sustainably win back the federal House is to win back the state legislatures. They draw the lines at the federal level. And no amount of lawsuits is going to change that in the next 2 cycles. So that's one reason. The second reason is because pretty much every topic that you care about, whether it's gun control, healthcare, immigration, education, women's rights, they're often decided, or partially at least decided, at the state level. And even though all the air is being sucked from the room by the federal news, a lot is happening in the state legislatures. And while nothing happens in the federal House and the federal Senate, very little passes there, a lot is being passed at the state ledge level. So if you're on this call and you do not know who is running as your state senator or your state representative, you should Google that immediately. That is where Tech for Campaigns spends 80% of our time, because it is so important, so strategic. There is nothing, no other kind of race that gives that kind of ROI. The races are about 1/10 of the cost of federal races, and they probably make 10 times the difference. So if you are questioning how Tech for Campaigns picks races or what we do, even though I know we've explained that on previous calls, we have a couple of blog posts about it, but we have a huge presence in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, Florida, Missouri, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and actually Maine as well, and then last year in Virginia. And we have slightly different goals in all of them. Sometimes we're trying to flip now. Sometimes it's a 2-cycle flip, so we're trying to get there by 2020. Sometimes we're doing a defend, and sometimes we're trying to break a supermajority, which, if you're not familiar, supermajorities are basically where bad things go to flourish. And there's a great blog post by David Friedlander on that on our blog as well. We just got some interesting news about Michigan, which seems like the Senate there could be flippable, which is just absolutely humongous. It would be the largest pickup of any body in the US if we flipped it. So there's amazing stuff happening, but I think it's important. I still see people just talking about federal races, and you know, those are nice, but not as necessarily strategic as we think. So 17 states, 15 days left, not even, 14 and a little. So really just 2 weeks left. And we're really, really excited. It's been a crazy year and a crazy time. I'm gonna let Greg talk some about the campaign highlights and stuff that we're on. I just want to reiterate for 1 second the importance of the state stuff. We do work on a lot of campaigns and with a lot of candidates that you've heard of. We have 2 teams working in North Dakota right now. We have a team working with Stacey Abrams right now, Mitch Bush in Colorado. So our choice to work on state campaigns is a choice, because we feel like it is absolutely the most strategic place we could possibly be. And you know, if you're on this call, you probably have access to Politics 101 doc that explains it. I really, really encourage you to think about state ledge more and try to propagate that message. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it to Greg.
I'm back. So I'm going to walk through just a couple of the more awesome ad creative and ads projects that we've got going, really show the gamut of the different things that we're doing, and the different sort of visual looks and feel that our teams are bringing to their districts. And actually, so the first one's actually going to be the one non-ads project. We'll be talking about James Talarico in Texas, who's running for the Texas House. And James Talarico is, it's one of the highest profile races in all Texas. He is a very young guy. He's a former public school teacher, native of the area, got his master's in education at Harvard, and he's really, really, really enthusiastic and authentic and passionate about improving public school. And public school quality generally is a big issue in Texas, with some of our other candidates in Arizona. Like Mike Collier is running for lieutenant governor. We'll see a little video shortly also about public education in Texas. So James's campaign, we've been speaking to them since I think it was March or April this year. So very interested in digital, very aggressive at what they can do, and we are helping them run both digital ads and texting projects. And in this texting project, it's gone super well. And this is actually a really interesting one because this campaign is so technologically forward. They were already texting before we even got there, which is not normally the case with our projects. So Jennifer Lynn, Rachel Katz, Amir Salazadeh, Zach Winson, they've been running persuasion, event turnout, volunteer recruitment, and now GeoTV. So this is basically all the things that you can do with texting, with the exception of fundraising. And they've really been doing a great job optimizing response rates, optimizing metrics, and preparing for GeoTV, which is beginning basically today in Texas with early voting. So just, general awesome call out to them for this project. In Arizona, we have a kind of an interesting structure where campaigns and candidates run together because they're in this what's called a multi-member district, where up to 3 candidates can all be running for Democratic seats in one geographic area. It's usually, they have 1 Senate seat available and then 2 House seats available. And the Arizona Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee, which is charged with electing the Democrats to the Arizona House and Arizona Senate, does a really nice job making sure everyone's speaking together, that they're all campaigning together, working together, not duplicating efforts. And so one example of that is Jennifer Pollock, who's running for the Arizona State House, and Steve Weichert, who's running for the Arizona State Senate. And so our teams have done a really nice job here of integrating look and feel, while still calling out the fact that each of these candidates needs to be elected on their own, but they are part of a team. And so we follow similar visual systems, similar branding and look and feel, but make sure to express the candidates, unique characters, platform, and individuality. So these ads just do a really nice job of sort of showing how that's working out in Arizona's Legislative District 17. So in Colorado, we're running a large digital ad campaign for Diane Mitch Bush, who is a sort of come from behind, won her primary, never run for office before, kind of running against what I heard on a call earlier today, an opponent who is a swamp creature. So the opponent has voted with Trump 95% of the time. He just kind of sucks. He opposes abortion. He opposes basically equal rights of all kind. Denies climate change. Just anything you can think of as sort of a alt-right caricature he exhibits. So Diane Mitch Bush is really running from a place of authenticity. She's a former state rep, as Jessica was mentioning. It's also a place where politicians can grow into the role. And we have a great team doing a lot of great creative work. So I'm going to show one of the animated videos that the team has created for Get Out the Vote, starting now. So we have this one, which is a 15-second and a 6-second. I think these do a really good job of being platform native and really excelling where they're delivered. So it's attention grabbing, it gets to the point fast, and it kind of catches your eyes as you're scrolling by on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. So that's one really nice example of deploying animation to make ads stand out and get the candidate's name in voters' minds. But another type of video that we've been really pushing because it works so well is what we call the selfie video or informal videos. Basically the opposite of this one, but while still being sort of awesome in their own little ways. The selfie video really conveys authenticity. It's simple to make, and people, it's just like this, really native to platforms. So it works really well on Facebook and Instagram because it looks like a video that a real person, as Mike Collier is, would potentially shoot. So Mike Collier is running for Texas Lieutenant Governor. He's very focused on public education, also running against a sort of conservative caricature that's famous for putting a bathroom bill in to stop trans kids from going to the bathroom in Texas public schools, and generally just being more concerned about getting ratings and media hits than governing. And in Texas, the lieutenant governor position is actually quite interesting because it's actually, people say, is potentially more powerful than the governor because this position controls budgeting. So even with a Republican Senate, a Republican House, and Republican governor, this position has the potential to really, add some moderating influences.
Hi, it's Mike Collier out on the campaign trail. We only have a few days left till voting. Let me tell you something. When I'm elected lieutenant governor, we're going to completely change the conversation around public education. We want great schools, and we're going to fund them. And that makes all the difference in the world. Mike Collier for lieutenant governor.
So these do really well as ad creative because, they just feel like, he's been doing these, they're called Collier Chronicles. Every time he does them, it really does well because you really get a strong sense of his personality, strong sense for the authenticity, and his passion for these issues. So those are some ad creative that I just want to call out from various teams and various campaigns. And I'm going to now hand it over to Alex if she's there.
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Great. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about what we'll be doing right after the election. I know there's a lot of interest, certainly in all of the active projects that we have going on right now, which are numerous and really exciting. And we're spending, the vast majority of our energy, and our volunteers are spending the vast majority of their energy on execution ahead of November 6th. But of course, we're planning beyond that. So I won't talk as much about what we're thinking in terms of 2019, 2020, but most immediately what we're going to be doing right after November 6th. So as soon as the elections end, we will be starting a very large effort to collect all of the data that we have gathered from all of our different project types. So ads, email, website, social media audits, and peer-to-peer texting. So all the texting projects that we have, coalescing all that data and doing a ton of analysis to figure out what went well, what we can do better. It will have cascading impacts. So everything from how we structure teams to recommendations that we make for the specific projects to how we position these services to candidates and tell them about what value they can get out of these projects. One of the interesting and unfortunate things about political campaigns is that they basically dissolve in 98, 99% of all cases as soon as an election occurs. So, they're out of money. They can't afford to pay anyone else. There's no one doing coordination sort of across campaigns. I think, this is part of the reason that Democrats are so far behind on digital. After each election, there's really no one who is gathering all the information and making recommendations for how to improve. So we're in a really fortunate situation because we have all this data and because we will be persisting as an organization after November 6th. So we're going to take advantage of that. We'll be staffing some teams to actually work on some of these postmortems for specific project types and for specific processes, but we'll also have pretty much all of our internal staff working on them as well. So we hope to come out of the end of November and the beginning of December with some really concrete recommendations, and then we'll continue to do even deeper analysis through December and through the beginning of January. If you have any thoughts, if you're an existing volunteer and you really feel strongly about getting involved in this postmortem effort, or you just have some ideas about things that we could do really well, especially if you're sort of deep in the data on any of these projects, absolutely reach out and let us know. And I think we'll turn it over now to Orchid to talk about her experience as a TFC volunteer. She's the team lead. Great. She's the team lead on Day Hockman Vigil ads. So this is a candidate running for a state house in New Mexico. And she is a pretty inspirational candidate. Didn't have much to say in terms of digital advertising before TFC team came on board. The team has been running ads for a couple of weeks. They started to get some really great metrics. So I'll turn it over to Orchid to talk a little bit more about her experience.
No audio yet.
hold on while we figure this out, guys. All right, sorry, we are having some fun Zoom technical difficulties, but just generally speaking in New Mexico, and I'll just sort of fill this in a little bit, but because it's a sort of not a traditional swing state, budgets are traditionally relatively small, and someone like Day, who is a first-time candidate, not a career politician. She's a lawyer. She's sort of, really getting into this because she cares. Is basically a citizen legislator. They get paid a very small stipend, and she's really coming out to run for this office because she wants to do well. So one of the great things about digital ads is that for relatively little money, you can get. Oh, we're back.
Hi, sorry about that. I was not logged in. I was just dialed in.
All right, then I'll let you talk then.
Okay. Sorry, that's my daughter.
Why don't you give a quick intro of yourself?
Yeah. So, oh, you want me to intro myself?
That'd be great.
Bertelsen. My day job, I lead digital innovation at Nestle USA, and have been part of this campaign since it launched about 2 weeks ago. As Greg was saying, Day is so inspirational. She really got involved because, after Trump was elected, some things happened to her where she's like, hey, this is not the America that, I really believe it's sorry. So she's been wonderful to work with. Her campaign is more of an awareness campaign because she had very low name ID. She's not a career politician. By any means, and that's obviously a plus. District 15 is really interesting in New Mexico in that it is split 50-50 conservative and liberal. So, what we're doing in terms of digital advertising is really going to make a dent. As Alex mentioned, we've run about 5 ads to date. We've reached about 48,000 people, which is actually a lot considering New Mexico District 15 only has about 29,000 voters. What was interesting was that, we were given campaign van lists, and we created lookalikes off of that. We actually had a low matching rate. And so we had to build kind of, more base audiences and just really kind of play with the targeting. We have a really amazing team. Beryl Ness is our performance marketer, and Raquel Bredernitz, I feel like I'm saying that wrong, but she's our awesome graphic designer. I think overall, Alex, I think you wanted me to kind of mention, what my experience with TFC, and it's kind of exceeded my expectations. To be perfectly candid, I think in my role, I've been a little far removed from the day-to-day. So really mainly looking at strategy of social and digital marketing campaigns. So it's really nice to get in the trenches and be hands-on and, guide the team and work with the team in terms of making kind of, optimizations from day to day. So I've learned so much, much more than I expected. And I think this volunteer opportunity has been fantastic because I'm not great on the phone and I don't think anyone really benefits from me making calls. So it's nice that, this opportunity gives me a chance to use my skills into something that'll make a difference for various campaigns. So hopefully, is there anything else you guys wanted me to cover?
Yeah, do you want to just talk a little bit about the approach you guys have taken, the ads you've had, and who they've reached, and I guess more importantly, like what would they have done on the digital ads front without you?
Yeah, so I'll start with the last question first. The other aspects of their campaign or their marketing campaign is really just mailers. After we launched the ad project, they actually signed on for a texting campaign as well. So it's been really, So it's been really nice to work with the texting team and kind of share information and just kind of meet people that way. From what we've been able to do, we kind of started out with a couple of hypotheses. We actually started out with a carousel unit to really introduce the candidate and her various, the various things. Sorry, guys, this is like real life with like a toddler. So sorry. And so we started with a carousel ad that really introduced the candidate to people. I think the campaign really liked the carousel unit where we had a card for each key message that she had, whether it was cracking down on repeat offenders or really strengthening the local economy. And they liked the carousel unit because it showed that she was multidimensional, which was very important for a first-time candidate, especially as she's running against Brad Winter. You can kind of see on the screen here, he's absolutely a career politician. He's actually not the incumbent because the incumbent decided not to run again. But he has very high awareness and name ID. And so it was really important for us to show that Day was, just kind of more than just a young face, right? And so in addition to the carousel ad, we ran an Obama endorsement ad, really needed to tie her name ID and, increase her awareness among Democrats. So, can't get better than having Obama on an ad. She also had a great video that her campaign produced around public lands and fighting for public land rights. To be honest, it was something where we looked at it and we're like, okay, I don't think this is really going to perform well from a social video perspective, but it's something where we created an audience, was able to test that audience out, and they were pretty open to that message. And so the next phase of that is to create a version with her Sierra Club endorsement. And then we created this comparison ad. As you can see, we actually drew inspiration from some of the conversation on the paid social channel of what's worked before. And I think overall the community, the TFC community of volunteers and the staff, of course, has been absolutely amazing. Just learning so much from other industries and other people around the country. So yeah, it's working well so far. We're still testing and iterating and really need to, the next phase is the get out the vote video / gift that we're going to be putting together.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Orchid.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to go on mute because I've run out of things to give my toddler to keep her busy.
We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. Well, as Orchid was saying, New Mexico, or as Greg was saying, I should say, New Mexico is a pretty underfunded state, but it's a defend. So we're trying to.
They're like just a few seats away from. They need to keep a few seats. So
yeah,
it's a thin margin.
It's a very, very thin margin that they hold right now. To give you an example of what I was talking about before with the importance of state legislatures, in New Mexico, there's a law on the books that makes abortion a felony. Not hard to get an abortion, not like difficult to go find a clinic, but a felony. And so with the recent Supreme Court decision that's made winning the House and getting a stronger Democratic majority there even more important, because now they feel like there could be a real challenge to Roe v. Wade in the next few years. And so they really want to try to overturn that law. So that's just a tie back of why the state legislatures are so just incredibly important right now. And I think with that,
go Q&A.
we're going to talk a little bit about Q&A. I guess the one thing that I wanted to bring up quickly is is something about, I guess there's questions that especially Greg and Alex get around what we're going to do post-election. Is Tech for Campaigns going to be around? I guess I'm surprised at that question. Tech for Campaigns has 15 people working almost full-time, or full-time. There's a couple people working part-time. And as I was saying prior, we probably have more campaigns than any other organization, at least that we know of. So the idea behind Tech for Campaigns is a permanent digital arm for progressives and centrists. The only thing standing in our way right now is more funding. So those emails you get from me that you think are annoying, they're real. That is the only thing that we need right now. We have a ton of talent. We're super lucky to have people like Greg and Alex and an entire team of awesome people, amazing volunteers like you guys. But we need to grow. In order to grow, we need to invest in resources. Even the postmortem that Alex was mentioning, we have data from almost 150 campaigns over the last year and a half. There's a lot of data, so it's not a volunteer-only activity. And so that is the real answer is we'll be as big as we can be, and that will be largely controlled by how much we raise.
So if you have any questions, you can feel free to use the Zoom Q&A feature or put them in the chat. We have a couple to start us off with from Joshua Siegel asking about the 20% text rule with the ad shown. Yes, that can be an issue. It seems to sort of vary a little bit depending on how the individual execution is, since we have these across different candidates, font weights and sizes and the amount of negative space and all that kind of stuff. But yes, that is one of the tricky parts about that ad, that specific infographic style ad. On the flip side, it tends to perform really well. So we kind of, want to go for it and see where we can get. And then, you can mess with the 20% text checker to make, it work. For those who are not Facebook ads people, Facebook penalizes ads that have in its automatic view more than 20% of the ad being text. It is a problematic thing for political advertising because political ads like to have text for good reasons. They need to advocate and introduce and do all these good things, but it is a balance.
Another reason the selfie video is good.
Yes. Another reason the selfie video is good. So Kaping asked about new volunteers, the tech background. So as we are pretty much good to go on our teams generally, as we need to backfill specific roles, we will reach out to general volunteer base for those who look like they are good fits. So the answer is to do this sort of, to do the same thing that, we follow the same flow as for staffing campaigns. So Jennifer asks, is there a showcase or best of collection where we can see some of these successful ad campaigns? Yes, we have to consider that individual campaigns have their own things to protect and also very situationally dependent oftentimes. For example, education is a very big issue in Arizona, but may not be in Michigan, where roads and car insurance are the number one issue.
Why are you pointing to me?
Yeah, because Jessica's from Michigan. So what is amazing for somebody may not work for everybody else, but that's what we try to distill some of these best practices that really do seem to be consistent throughout everything, like these selfie videos showcasing authenticity. Those basically, usually do pretty well, especially when the candidate can own it well. But then as part of the postmortem, we usually collect really well-performing creative and try to identify any trends.
As a super easy thing to do, I guess, Jennifer, if you're on a project right now, I would just, in your state-specific channel, I would ask everyone to share the creative that performed the best that week, because a lot of the themes we do see are state-based. So in Arizona, as an example, like education and healthcare, just constant themes. And, you know, in Michigan, they talk about the quality of the road. So it really does depend. One of the things that we can say for sure is that like hero images of the candidate with text don't do well. But I think we'd encourage you to ask in channels for people to share something that's worked. As Greg said, in our postmortem, we do collect stuff, and we have stuff that will be on our Dribbble account, but it's really hard to be doing that while we're working with 150 campaigns in the cycle.
You design, okay, so about stock images, it would be helpful. Right now, we are really relying on sort of the royalty-free options out there, Unsplash and things. And feel free to talk to your campaign about their capacity to field some of these costs. Given our margins are heavily negative overall, we do not have currently the room for a lot of
It's
stock
not even
images.
that. We're not allowed to pay for anything for campaigns.
That is also, yeah. So if the campaign is willing to pay for it, you know, have that conversation, go for it. If not, there are, you know, as everybody probably knows, lots of places to get photos that are free to use on the internet. And then news images, I think generally are fair use of the opponents and things like that. But, you know, try to, you know, limit that as much as possible, just to steer clear. Any other questions out there?
From Ellie. Oh, that was it. I just want to call out one team that is basically probably working right. I'm surprised, Ellie, that you're even on this. I don't understand when you sleep. But Ellie, Greg, Pascal, Robin Wang, and Wendy Wong, right? So this team got up and running last Monday?
Yeah.
A week ago. And hopefully tomorrow they're going to be launching a site for Heidi Heitkamp, who's doing a final November 1st to 5th bus tour. That's not public yet, so let's not share that in our 50-person, beyond this 50-person call. And, you know, just worked really well and really quickly to get something up and running that's going to be pretty awesome. That will show, you know, where she's going to be. She's, I think, 5 days and something like 50 stops. So I just want to say a big shout out to that team.
Yep.
Any conversation with Slack to donate a paid version? You are welcome to have that conversation. Yes, we've had that conversation. They have said no.
The Slack pricing model does not work for us, although we all, especially us here at headquarters, really enjoy having no chat history.
Who has that? Okay. Well, we need to ask.
If you're logged in with my Zoom link, I think there are about 10 Alex Lindsays on the call. So hello, everyone. And you ask a question, please just identify yourself.
Do any of the other Alex Lindsays or other attendees
Your name
have?
is Alex Lindsay, please. Well, the real Alex Lindsay, please stand up.
Oh, that's Alex Lindsays on the camera.
God, Alex, you look different than you looked earlier.
Sorry, I thought the ask was for all the non-Alex Lindsays to introduce themselves, which makes less sense now that I think about it.
Yes.
All right, last call for questions. Otherwise,
We are all
otherwise,
Alex.
We are all Alex. Yes.
Yes. But there's only one real Alex.
Just to clarify, I am the real Alex Lindsay. Thank you all for attending this all hands.
All right, everybody. As always, if you have any questions, ping us on No Chat History Slack, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
14 days.
14 days.